After Talk Radio, you're in to all things music.
You know, we just knew it wasn't just going to happen on its own. It wasn't just going to all of a sudden catch on fire and just work. So it was just like, just roll up your sleeves and go do it, you know, and it wasn't like what you wanted to do. You work hard all week and then it's like, what are you going to do this week? And I'm going to go down to the juice store and like make samples and hand them out to people again. You know, we did what we have to do. And we had the confidence that if we do what we need to do, you know, it's going to work.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I want to let you know how much I appreciate you joining us on our show. If you missed our last interview, you can hear it in all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit, or download our app and take us with you. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business and in all businesses. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music and in business, to share their stories on how they have influenced the world and how they have helped to shape our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest today is business visionary, vice president of marketing, and co-creator of Sambazon, Jeremy Black. Jeremy Black is a co-founder of Sambazon Açaí. Taking the leap from a successful career as a financial planner, Jeremy joined his brother Ryan Black and friend Ed Nichols in early 2000 to introduce Açaí to the U.S. market. In addition to helping create global awareness and demand for an unknown fruit, the team pioneered a sustainable business model in the Amazon to import organic, fair trade superfoods. Jeremy was a key player in Sambazon's rapid growth from startup to over $100 million global brand. From meager beginnings of one product at a handful of juice bars around Southern California, Jeremy spearheaded the development of the brand, the products, and the marketing strategy for their company. Over the past 17 years, Jeremy has helped their team create an entirely new category in the natural foods market and a business that creates positive socio-economic and environmental change. Please welcome my guest today, Jeremy Black. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thanks, Terry. Great to be here.
Yeah, and welcome back to the country. You've just been traveling. You were in Croatia, is that correct?
Yeah, I was fortunate to be in Croatia as they were making their run to the World Cup final. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to be there, cheering the team on and seeing how enthusiastic everybody was about how their team was doing.
How amazing is that to be able to watch it, you know, with the people who are rooting on their own team members. It's just a wonderful opportunity. And man, sports really connects people. So nutrition does, and clearly music does. My calling,
mm-hmm.
But you know, I know you're an athlete as well as a nutrition pioneer. So you know, I'm sure it must have been really thrilling for you. What were you doing there, by the way? Were you traveling back from Brazil, or were you setting up other businesses, or just having fun?
Yeah, I was. It was actually a work trip, but it was a little bit of fun too. I got involved in a side project this last year with a family friend who is from there, and they farm helichrysum, which is a flower that can be distilled into a really high-grade oil that is used in aromatherapy and very therapeutic for the skin, very good for healing your skin, anti-aging effects for the skin. I just had a big chunk of my side of my face taken out with skin cancer and put this stuff on every day, and I was just blown away at how fast everything healed, and the scar is minimal. So pretty jazzed up on this stuff. You see it out there. Açaí, the French brand, sells a lot of it in some of their products, but I'm trying to help these family farmers and this distillery, scale up for the global market, because it's something that isn't really well known, but it's starting to get a lot more well known because of its powerful properties.
Right. I know of the flower more from a homeopathic point of view as a scent. I know it's got a beautiful fragrance to it, but I wasn't aware of the other medicinal properties that you could put it on topically as well. So I'm glad it's helping heal up your face. That's fantastic.
Yeah. A lot of time in the sun.
Yeah. Well, you grew up. Let's talk about your early childhood for a moment. You grew up in California. Were you born in Southern California?
I was born in Florida. I moved to California when I was 2 or something, and pretty much lived in California most of my life, minus I think junior high and high school. I was in Arizona, but pretty much need to live near the beach if I have a choice.
We've sort of followed the same path. I grew up in Miami, born and raised, and then moved to California to pursue a music career, but also to be close to the water. So I can relate. So when you were growing up, I know your original background, besides surfing and being an athlete and also a practitioner of yoga, but your background was financial planning. Let's talk about what were you doing when you were in junior high school? Were you already good with numbers, or were you just thinking about getting outside and hitting the water?
Well, when I was in junior high, I was in Arizona, and I just skated ramps every day and dreamed of getting back to the ocean. And that really was part of my inspiration to try and get back to California after I got out of high school. But, my half brother, he's about 15 years older than me, and he was already a successful financial planner when I was starting school at Pepperdine up in Malibu. So, I started talking to him a lot about, career paths, and he was like, look, I work with doctors, I work with lawyers, I work with all kinds of different, walks of life businesses. And I love my job because I get to help, solve people's financial problems and help them with money. And a lot of people don't realize how much stress and how difficult it can be to deal with money. Even, when you have a lot, you don't sometimes, you have a lot of stress around making sure you're doing the right thing with it. So it was interesting because I started kind of apprenticing with him when I was still in college, and then got fully into it after I graduated, and really enjoyed it because you really get to know people's lives and help them solve, problems, protect their family, make them feel good about saving money for their kids' education, and, save money on taxes and stuff like that.
At Pepperdine University, you actually graduated with a bachelor's in business administration. Is that primarily studying finance, or is that really more about learning how to run a corporation? The bachelor's degree in business administration is kind of just a nice little overview of all the different disciplines of business. You get your accounting classes, you get, all kinds of different classes, economics, everything. So you just get a good overview of kind of everything. And, so I knew enough about all the different topics in business when I graduated, but, it was deeper study as I was working on some of the elements of financial planning, where I really learned a lot more about, how investments work and how taxes work. I mean, how to work with the tax code, and insurance and estate planning and all the stuff that you need to understand to be able to be a good financial planner. Mm-hmm. I want to just interject right now so that people understand why I wanted to have you on the show. One is that you and I met on an airplane flying to New York, both of us for business, and started just chatting like people do. Anybody who's interesting, would not waste an opportunity just to get to know the person next to them for a minute. And so, you were telling me about your company and a lot about the business model and mission statement of your company. But before we talk about how the company started, I just wanted to say that you started your company with the help of friends and family and by maxing out your credit cards. And I think that's really exciting, because it's thinking outside of the box. You were thinking without limitation. And I know some of that was, like one of the things that I read about you is that you were all constantly challenging yourselves to push the status quo and to politely reject the idea of impossible. So is that something that just came natural for you? Do you and your brother share that? Did your family teach that to you? Or is that, because I know that you had to bring those ideas into your business. It didn't come from most people who start a business and also become successful. They're not so globally and environmentally conscious as you guys. So you came in with a different point of view, and that's what prompted my interest in continuing my conversation with you. So just having said that, why don't you give the backstory of you guys taking a surfing trip to Brazil and to this conversation we're having right now?
Yeah, so, I'm 4 or 5 years out of college doing the financial planning route. It's going good. I'm going on surf trips when I get a vacation and getting to start to explore the world a little. And, my brother and one of our best friends went to Brazil for the new millennium celebration. It was like, year 2000. Everyone was kind of being a little crazy about it. And I really wanted to go with them, but I couldn't. I had a job. But they went down there for a month, and they started they started eating acai bowls on the beach in Brazil. It just had gotten popular down there. It was something that, it was an Amazon food, that had been kind of made sexy by the jiu-jitsu fighters and surfers in Rio. They had taken this oily, like purple fruit and mixed it and made almost like a cold, thick smoothie, topping it with banana and granola, and it became like this energizing meal. And my brother and our friend Skanda, they had it on the beach, and they were blown away. They're like, wow, this is amazing. Why have we never heard of this or seen this? What's the deal with this? And their whole trip, that was the deal. Like, let's find where we can get some acai at this beach, or they're in this other part of the country and they're looking for it. And, Skanda's a vegan. And so it was extra important for him, because in Brazil, it can be hard when you're a vegan, because they eat so much meat down there. But, he was super fired up about it. And, at the end of their trip, they're thinking about like, okay, we're going home. They were both kind of in the last year of their college days at CU Boulder, where they actually, learned a lot about, natural foods and the environment. And this is, back before any of those conversations were really being had. I mean, they'd been had, but like, I guess for our generation, we weren't hearing that stuff so much when we grew up. That was a little older, crunchier kind of hippie thing. But they were hearing more stuff in Boulder. And then, they got to the end of this trip and they were about to go home, and they're like, man, it would be awesome if we could figure out how to get this back and open up a little acai shop, in Boulder or California. And so they kind of made a little pact, like, okay, let's not let this go. Let's see what we can do. Let's figure this out. And when they came back, they shared it with me, and I thought it was pretty ambitious. but my brother's, he goes after stuff big time. He he was not a short. I mean, he's 5'10" or so, but he was short for a football player, and small, but got himself a full ride scholarship playing football at Colorado, which was one of the better teams in the nation, just because he's very determined, and no matter what, he's a never say die kind of guy. And he wanted to do this, and he started really pushing, and him and Skanda together, had a family friend loan them a little bit of money to go back to Brazil to try and set up a supplier. And they ended up doing that, long story short. It's always a long story down there, but, they did that. And once all that started coming together, I started looking at it and I was like, wow, if this is what you guys say it is, it's healthy. I hadn't even tried it yet. It's healthy. The propagation of this fruit, like as it gets more popular and more valuable, it actually, and this was one of the coolest parts, is it's going to make some of these parts of the Amazon rainforest more valuable, standing than cut down. And it's,
right. It's sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fairly simple concept. You've got, people that live out in the forest, they need to make a living. One guy's offering them money to clear cut everything, so that they can raise, cattle and soybeans and things. And someone else is saying, hey, no, don't cut anything down. There's all kinds of amazing things growing there. We're going to pay you, a good wage to harvest a renewable resource. Açaí is perfect. It keeps growing from all these palm trees that are growing wild. And that's going to be good for you and your family for generations. And they get it, and they're all about it. And, it's a win-win. It's good for the people. It's good for the environment. And it's good for the business that's doing it. And we call that the triple bottom line. So we were looking at this saying, wow, we have a potential not just to bring something cool that's healthy, but create a business that's based on the triple bottom line. And that was really inspiring. And I thought, I can keep doing what I'm doing and I enjoy it, but I could actually really do something that could change the world and impact a lot of people if we do this and we pull this off. So we all decided, let's do it. Let's go for broke. Nothing's going to stop us. Whether we got to borrow money or put it on credit cards, we'll get it. We'll figure it out. And once we started sharing it, we knew because people loved it. And it's just a matter of time before it started catching on.
You even took it a step further. The story is so beautiful. And then it keeps getting better for me because in addition to harvesting this fantastic food source and employing people that live in the community, you're maintaining a very delicate ecosystem, the Amazon forest, instead of just chopping trees down, but you're using more than just the fruit, the throwaway product. The rest of the seed, you figured out how to dry it and use it as a fuel source for heat, and the shells you're using for jewelry. I mean, you just keep finding ways to not be wasteful and to create more prosperity for your vision and for the people that are involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is just to keep getting better. There's
right.
always going to be things you can do to get better. And if you can find, sometimes it's those little things that just really help, like, and realize, we've got all these seeds. What are we going to do with all these seeds after we take the fruit? Well, we can either give them to somebody or, we actually gave them, for a while we were giving a lot of them, I think we still are, to a guy that was cutting down trees to burn the wood to fuel his furnaces so that he could make bricks for people's homes. Well, here's a solution. Take these seeds. They'll work if they're dried, and burn those instead and stop cutting down more forest. So little things like that are nice when it's simple. Doesn't require a huge amount of capital expenditure to like set something up. But then, there's it's kind of like a once a year thing. You got to sit down and look at like, what can we do to be a little bit better?
Right. What more can we do?
What's the footprint of our business? What's it doing as far as, the supply chain and, the packaging and all these kind of things. It's hard to survive in the business world for sure. There's a lot of competition, but like, if you can just every year try and make things a little bit better, maybe this year we'll do this that's more recyclable, or we'll do that, and can't expect it to just happen overnight. It never will, but you can start making those baby steps, and 10 years later, it's a lot of progress.
Well, one of the things that I know from speaking with you before, but also from doing research, even just going to your website, is that you're not afraid to give something away, to create more everything, more opportunity, more prosperity, not just for you, but for the other people that you're working with. In other words, you could have thought about selling the seeds to the guy who made bricks, so that there was another source of income, but you just, you saw the value in just giving it to him, so that it could create a series of other events that are good for everybody. And, it's also connected. Part of why I'm fascinated with that is because I'm in the music business and I make records for a living and I perform and tour, but people don't buy records anymore. And there's a whole new business model about giving your music away, and the ongoing debate about the value of, the monetary value of recorded music. And you have a fearlessness in your business model, in giving things away, and not just there, but in the way your company started. Once I'm speaking for you. You can elaborate on this story, but once you decided to take those original investments from friends and max out your credit cards and figure out how to get this started, your first sale was door to door. You were going around to juice bars, and people were saying, "Well, that's great, but we've never heard of your product, and neither have our customers." And your response to that was to offer to come in every Saturday and give it away to the customers, and then just have them watch what happens. And not only did you do that and it worked, but you replicated that formula hundreds of times. You all over California, Hawaii, Florida, New York. That kind of thinking did you learn that in business school, or is that something that was just the tenacity that you guys had from just knowing what it took to go for it? Very much like a musician. Just this sense of, I'm going to make this happen. Where did you learn that?
I don't know if I could point something out specifically, but, we just knew it wasn't just going to happen on its own. It wasn't just going to all of a sudden catch on fire and just work. It doesn't really work that easy most of the time. So you
just did what you needed to do.
We did what we have to do. And we had the confidence that if we do what we need to do, it's going to work. And, you got to roll up your sleeves and just go do it, and not sit around and be like, oh, let's hope that store, comes back and has bigger numbers next week. It's like, no, go down to that store and share it with more people. We knew immediately when we started sharing it with more people that people like it. Then they start wanting it to order it more regularly. And,
right.
How are you going to reach some customer of a juice bar to show him something new? You can't rely on the guys that work at the store. You can't hope that they see your little sign that you make. You don't have the money to put commercials on TV or, back then when that was a bigger thing.
Right. Or an infomercial.
We didn't have social media at the time. There was no. That's right. No influencers that could talk about it or anything. So it was just like, just roll up your sleeves and go do it, And it wasn't like what you wanted to do. You work hard all week, and then it's like, what are you going to do this week? And I'm going to go down to the juice store and like make samples and hand them out to people again, you know. So are you, and so are you, all the guys that work with us. But, you know, you do what you got to do, and then you start finding cool places to do it. We started, you know, going to a lot of really cool music festivals. I mean, we were the early Coachellas before it was all washed out, and it was fun, and started doing some of the really good reggae festivals up in NorCal.
Were you selling there or doing more giveaways?
We were doing both. We were selling, giving out little samples, but mostly, you know, trying to sell. You know, our goal was, once we got it rolling, was like, if we can come home break even, it's a win. All of our costs, everything. And, you know, for a while there, it was pretty fun. We were a crew of 20 going to Coachella, working both, you know, the regular zone and the VIP zone. So we had passes back and forth. And in the end, we, you know, luckily everything paid for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A recent guest on the show said success is not by accident. Would you agree with that? Sounds like you're living it.
Sometimes it might happen by accident. People get struck by the right kind of lightning, but most of the time, yeah, you got to earn it.
But you got to, there's still, you want to stay open a little room for the Holy Ghost, or just for, you know, for some of the magic to happen, you know, or as we say, when we're making music, when you go into a studio, you still want to leave a little bit room for music to happen. You don't want to overplan.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with the marketing term Warrior Up? I saw some Sambazon t-shirts, I think, or posters with Warrior Up. And I really connected with it. I really like it.
Nice. Yeah, we worked with a really creative group out of Portland called Mutt Industries, and you know, this was about 10 years in when we actually had, like, you know, we really like kind of understood our business more and understood our consumers, and we were looking to do, you know, our first real like ad campaign, and they took a look at everything that, you know, our brand was about, and they were like, look, you guys got an Amazon Warrior on your logo, and you know, this was just a really cool idea they came up with, because it was the idea that, you know, taking a bunch of everyday, not just everyday, but people that were being warriors in their communities, whether they're athletes or activists or whatever. Everybody has, you know, everybody can step it up and be a leader and create some change in their world some way, somehow. So we were celebrating people that were doing that, and quite a few people actually San Diego, because we were doing the first test in San Diego. So some surfers and different athletes down there were part of the campaign, Rob Machado and Bob Burnquist and guys like that. So it was a lot of fun, and it was really when social media was just kind of getting started. Facebook was pretty young at that stage, and you know, the idea was to, you know, create a way for you to build like a headdress with your own unique elements onto your profile picture and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. It was a little before its time, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Warrior, I saw a video of you and I think your brother and one other friend doing a bungee jump in South Africa. That was the largest bungee jump in the world. That was over 650 feet. That's kind of a warrior move. Was that a destination for you, or was that something that you were nearby and said, okay, we just got to go do this? What was that experience about?
It was a total nightmare. Yeah. My brother actually wasn't on that trip. He was in South Africa years before me for a big sustainability conference he went to. And him and one of our other partners, they went and did that So 2000, I think it was 11, a few friends and myself had planned this big motorcycle trip in South Africa for 3 weeks. And, we were all getting ready to go, and we were going there for New Year's, and then we were going to do the trip the first, pretty much in January. And so my brother gives me for Christmas one free bungee jump on that bridge, and it was like total nightmare. The last thing I want to do is bungee jump. It's, I don't have I wouldn't say I have a fear of heights, but it's not really my thing. But he gave it to me as a Christmas present, and pretty much the other guys were like, yeah, let's do it. And then we had to drive across that bridge a few times when we were down there, chasing some surf and some other stuff. And I looked over the bridge a few times as we were riding by, and I was like, I do not want to do this. But, I made it, and we made a video, so...
It's not so much a
I
fear
never
of
want to
heights
bungee
as a
jump
fear
again.
Oh, right. You got it out of your system? I was going to say it's a fear
I
of dying.
never want to bungee jump again. I'll skydive. I've done it a few times. It's fun. It's kind of surreal, but bungee jumping is really, it's not my thing.
Yeah. That's not mine either. And I haven't done it yet, and it's not on the list, but I was intrigued by watching the video and what the backstory was on that. And thanks for sharing that. How would you define your role? Your brother Ryan's the CEO of the company, and I believe your role is the VP of marketing. And I'm guessing a lot of things cross over. That it's collaborative. But how would you define your role as the VP of marketing?
Yeah, actually, I'm not the VP of marketing these days. Okay. I was the VP of marketing for a number of years. That's all right. But just make it clear. For my current, I like to say my current title is co-founder at large. A term I like to pull from the journalism side, because I really just focus on special projects. I'm definitely more entwined with stuff that's focused on the brand, and the creative things that we're trying to do, and product development, stuff like that. But I'm fortunate enough that I'm not as involved with the day-to-day. Like my brother, he's run the show. He's been doing it since day one. A lot of props to him for how hard he works with that. And right. I've taken a little bit of a different route. I took a sabbatical for almost a year, about 10 years in. And since then, I've really been working more on special projects and helping where I can. And
what's it been like for you guys to start with just the three of you and grow this company into a multi-million-dollar company? Is your life more complicated now? Is that, or is there, do you still manage to inject a simplicity in the, and keep the original essence of or spirit in which you created this company?
Well, businesses are definitely complicated entities, as you get bigger and have more objectives and more things you're trying to do and more employees, and, you're reaching more and more people all over the world. It's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts. So, it's not all fun, and a lot of it can get, there's a lot of work to do. So, it's great when you can provide employment opportunities, which we've been able to do for a lot of people, both in Brazil and in the U.S. to man various jobs, and be luckily the position I'm in. I've been more fortunate where I could pick and choose some things I want to do, and fortunate enough that they need me and want me for that. So. I take what I can, and as far as different projects, and then I have other things going on because, after, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years into it, I started feeling like I wanted to do some different things. And, after I'm still a diehard lover of our brand and Açaí, and probably have eaten more Açaí than most people, unless you go down to the Amazon or on some of the beaches in Brazil. But, I wanted to spread my wings a little different and do some different things. We created a cool little retreat up here in Malibu where I live now. I've worked on a project with augmented reality with a friend of mine who had a cool startup idea. And I like to do different things.
Well, you also have the Zuma Sanctuary. Is that part of what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's the retreat that we have up here.
Mm-hmm. On a business level, as the company has grown, have there been have there been any bumps in the road or challenges in staying true to your mission statement? Because the mission statement is sustainable management of the Brazilian rain Amazon, and the quote is, "We started Sambazon with the belief that what we do can change the world, and we think we can do it for the better." And your brother Ryan talks about the goal of business should not just be to make profit, but to serve the community and the common good. So there's a social responsibility, there's an environmental responsibility that you founded this company on. Have you guys had to go to the mat to fight to maintain that, or has that been the sort of the essence that has allowed this company to continue to grow, besides it being a great product?
I wouldn't say that because we built our business model on, these sustainable objectives, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, yes, our products are going to be organic. Yes, we're going to try and get everything we can fair trade. And everything else that the business is doing should try and reflect that type of philosophy. So, sometimes little things come in where it's like, oh, I don't know if we can do that. It's more expensive, and it's not that hard to make that decision and try and keep that. Of course, our juices could be less expensive in the store, and we could probably sell more of them if we, didn't have, organic ingredients in them. But it's just it's not even an option. And we haven't been in a position where, we brought in a financial partner or investor or something that, basically came in and said, oh, well, you guys need to do this because, this is how we're going to, make this company profitable or more profitable or whatever. It hasn't happened, fortunately. And I don't really see it happen, even if, back in the old days, I would say maybe 20 years ago, you would watch, Coke or Pepsi buy someone and kind of, slowly destroy them by trying to turn them into, the company that they are. But, as time has gone by, I think a lot of the bigger companies have realized that they're going to be a lot smarter if they let these companies that they've invested in operate more like the way that they were when they got them, why they were appealing to them. And when the companies have a environmental and a social impact, you start trying to strip that away, and you're basically eroding, the value of what you purchased, and the consumer of that brand is not going to be happy, and you're gonna ruin your investment. So I think that times have changed quite a bit with the way that works.
Well, that's nice to hear. And it's do you think some of that is some of the bigger corporations, Coke, Pepsi, and and the others that sometimes turn around and acquire or invest in smaller companies? Do you think it's because there's some younger people like of your generation and our generation that become decision makers in those corporations, or are people just getting smarter in general, regardless of what their age is, and not try to change something into what it isn't?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I would say probably in, the money talks. if the consumer, and this goes to an important point, if the consumer wants more sustainable, more organic, more environmental friendly products, the big companies are going to do the research, and they're going to realize like that's what the consumer will put their money towards, and we're going to make them that product, you know, and that's why, you know,
so they're going to follow the money.
Yeah, the big companies will follow the money. And so that's why the real solution to how do we, you know, change all the bad stuff that's going on is vote with your dollar. Put your dollars behind the companies that, you know, are doing good things that you believe in, and don't just be blind about who you're supporting, because, you know, every time you go into X fast food chain that's basically using genetically modified, you know, products to feed their, you know, factory farmed animals, you're basically promoting, you know, you're basically saying, keep doing that. I'm going to keep supporting you, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, the way to really change the world is to vote with your dollars. It's a pretty simple concept.
Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking of the word vote, because, you know, it's certainly, that's something that we don't think about the power of our vote when we go into a grocery store, you know, that we're actually making a social you know, we're actually making a decision that impacts the world, you know, economically, socially, environmentally, every time we put our dollar to something. And when we choose one drink over another drink, or a frozen product over another product, you know, I mean, we talk about voting, you know, certainly in politics, you know, and telling people, if you don't like what's going on in government right now, or if you do like what's going on in government right now, show it by getting out and voting, and you know, support your stance, your perspective. But you know, it's interesting to think about grocery shopping, you know, or stopping just like at a gas station, you know, and getting something cold to drink. That you actually, every time you make a decision like that, there's weight to that. You know, there's weight in that you are doing something that's healthy and good for yourself. But when you're supporting non-GMO products and companies that you know, pay a fair, you know, fair trade wages and are environmentally conscious, like there's, you know, it's really much more powerful than I think any of us give ourselves credit for. That your dollar, you know, where you spend your dollars when you're buying food, impacts the world in greater ways than just, you know, filling our belly. And I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because it empowers people to do that, and also to share that information. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we're having this conversation right now, because, you know, it started by me liking your product, you know, and knowing about your product, partially because of some of those giveaways that you're talking about. You know, going to Whole Foods and seeing a Sambazon truck out front and saying, oh, I know that company. They're giving samples away. I think, you know, why don't I try? Maybe they've got some, you know, discount coupons to buy something today or whatever it is. But, you know, it worked on me. You know, and I was already a fan of the product, but it made me more aware of what you were doing globally, you know, not just about the ingredients in the product, which I was already impressed with. But, you know, it's, again, I'm really glad that you said that, because I don't think people, you know, go to the grocery store thinking that they're making any kind of impact in their choices and decisions. And you're right. If you only buy things that are healthy and organic or non-GMO or fair trade, then it's going to get the attention of the distributors and the corporations that are deciding who buys what. So thanks for pointing that out.
And it goes deeper. It's, you know, think about even your investments, like what you're doing with your retirement money or whatever. I'm invested in this stock or this mutual fund or whatever. You're supporting that company by investing in that company. the bank you do business with, whatever bank you're working with, you understand what that bank is, doing. And, a lot of times it's probably not what you want to be supporting. You're out there, people are out there protesting the Dakota pipeline, but, all their money's in a bank that's basically funding it.
Right.
And they're using, whatever it is, driving a vehicle that's going to use that oil, whatever. It all comes back to like, everyone just needs to do their own little, think about what you're supporting when you're spending money. And it's not an easy thing to go and like change all that overnight. But, like I said, make a decision. This year I'm going to do this, or this year I'm going to do that. And I'm going to start slowly making that change, supporting the kind of companies that, I want to see in the world that have the same vision of a brighter future versus just blindly supporting the companies that are actually making, doing all the destruction.
That's well said. I can see where having that be your own personal mission in life, it has probably made it more bearable to put in the kind of hours that you all put in to get your company going, in the early years, and that you continue to do. Every time you get on an airplane or go to speak, I know you do public speaking as well, and it's got to make it a little more bearable and worthwhile because traveling is not as glamorous as it used to be. Certainly as a musician, we all know that. 5 a.m. lobby calls, and I know those of us that those of us that choose to live a healthy life often travel with food, our own food, so that we're always going to be able to have something that's healthy. I know that you told me when we were on the plane together that you carry packets, of powder with you and different things, so that you're never in a position where you have to put something in your body that's not healthy.
I try my best to, especially when you're traveling, to bring some good bars and stuff like that. Because,
right.
The last thing you want to be is starving and got to buy something on the plane that, it's just not going to make you feel good. Right.
One of the things that your company does in the communities, certainly in Brazil, is that you build schools, and you are doing actual, very literal, focused ways of making the communities better that you are traveling through. Is that hard to do? With government, working through different governments and community leaders, or is it are you pretty welcome? Or people put the red tape aside so that you can do good and leave the places better than you found them?
We've been really fortunate with the work we've done in Brazil, and the local governments have been super supportive because they've got so much on their plate. And, to have some companies step up and say, hey, we want to take this and do this. They've been really happy with it, the program. And all that comes out of our fair trade program. And, to be considered, to have a certification, at least the type of certification we have, you just have to pledge, a specific percentage. They have their requirement for it, that you're going to reinvest in the local communities that you work in. And so it's cool. It has a clear guideline for us, and, it gives the team that runs our operation down in Brazil, something that they really are proud and excited about doing, when the off season comes around, because they harvest for a period and it's a lot of work, and then the off season comes and this is, a good time for them to jump on some of these projects and put some of these funds to use that we've set aside to reinvest in. Building schools is one of the projects that we identified was going to be really impactful, because there's a lot of kids where we work in the Amazon that don't get to go to school because it's, a 2+ hour boat ride to the closest school. And think about that every day. It's like 5 hours on a boat to go to school. No, I don't think so. So, we were able to start strategically planting in some areas where, we could get some good numbers of kids that, could have access to school that didn't before. So it's been a lot of fun, and there's other cool projects that we've done down there, but I think the schools have standed out as one of the more satisfying ones.
And in case anybody's wondering, you're not just doing good for Brazil, you're doing things for your own country that you live in, for the United States. You're partnering with a lot of colleges right now. There's the Ecology Center. There's something, students at Cal Poly, Real Food Collaborative. They're one of the things that caught my eye was the work that you're doing with the Campus Kitchen branch at Auburn University, and you're currently diverting thousands of pounds of food waste from the dining halls by collecting and packaging and redistributing it to local food groups struggling with food insecurity. That's kind of a really interesting way of phrasing that, because there's no condescension. There's no, anybody's better than anybody else. The term local food groups struggling with food insecurity caught my eye. And so even in the way that you are setting the intention for doing it is different than just donating money or giving excess food away. It's very conscious and well thought out. And also that you're engaging students to come up with ideas. You've got scholarship programs, and I applaud you. Not just you, but your team, your company to, like you said, you always every year you're looking at how can we do better, and you continue to find ways, including creating new product as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've got.
Yeah, I'm blown away actually at all the programs we do. Don't even know about some of them, and
right.
It's amazing the teams that we've been able to put together and all this stuff, because it keeps going and builds on itself. If you have that culture, you instill that, people get inspired on. I'm excited, we're doing this and that, and now I have all these other ideas I want to try and implement. That are building on that, and it takes on a life of its own.
Mm-hmm. We've got about 5 minutes left in our conversation, and so I'd like to end with my closing questions. There's 3 parts to this. Since this show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally?
It means, dreaming big and going for it, and and if you fall down, getting back up, because if it works the first time, it's you might be really lucky. Even especially with business, it's in my mind, or if you're playing music, it's a constant battle, but you gotta love what you do, or you're not going to enjoy that path. So I don't know, roundabout saying, it's do what you love and dream big and don't give up.
Which leads to the next question, and which you've kind of already answered, but maybe elaborate on. Can you share 3 tips for success that has driven your career personally?
Okay. The first one that comes to mind is take good vacations.
Right.
Honestly, because early in my, when I started working in the financial services, I started going on these surf trips. And when we started Sambazon, I was like, I'm going to work really hard, but I'm going to still take, a few trips a year, and I'm going to look forward to those trips, and they're going to be healthy. And I think it's really important not to burn out, and to take breaks and refresh yourself. So I think it's really important to do that. I think it's really important, to take some some time for yourself every day, both physically and mentally, whether it's, you know, a workout or some kind of physical activity, sports, whatever, and to take, you know, 15, 20 minutes, you know, minimum, and just be still. And whether you're going to pray or meditate or whatever it is that you feel called to do, but to really like calm your mind down and get your mind out of the rat race of everything that's going on, and not have your phone going all the time. And, you know, I think that's really important, especially as our phones have become more and more part of our bodies and minds. And, you know, the third, just probably go back to what I said before, which is, you know, make sure you're doing something you love, because they don't call it work for nothing. And you gotta love what you're doing, because it's going to be a lot of work no matter what it is.
Yeah, those 3 great tips, and I agree with you. My final question is, at this point of your life, Jeremy, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell me? Keep going. You know, appreciate every day, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I do know. I think it's, you know, you're certainly, you are walking the walk, because everything that you're saying you have followed, including stepping away when it was important to you from a very successful business that was very much a part of something that you loved and believed in, but you still knew enough to take good care of yourself to just give yourself a break so you could come back and continue to stay involved in a way that was healthy for you and great for the company. Is there anything you'd like to say in our last 30 seconds? I want to just thank you for spending the hour with me. It's been really fun and interesting.
Right on, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, sure.
You know, I love to leave with that notion of vote with your dollar. I just think it's how we actually really can change the world. We're so fortunate here. Most of us have a lot of dollars to spend, and I think it's just, you know, my version of conscious capitalism is really like being conscious about where your money goes, because you're supporting all the things that you're, you know, putting your money to.
On that note, thank you so much, Jeremy. Everybody go check out Sambazon Açaí. It's a wonderful product, and you're making the world a better place by tasting it. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see y'all next week.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Inner Talk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.